What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another weekly vlog from my channel. I appreciate you guys, and thanks for watching. Subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, and maybe we can grow the channel together. This week I wanted to give you a little update on the E92. It's been quite a while since it's been on the channel, almost 2 or 3 weeks now, and I've gotten a ton of progress done on it. The roll cage is basically finished. I just have to finish welding the front half of it. The firewall's in. The fuel cell carrier and all the stuff for the fuel cells in, and let's just go ahead and take a look. So we'll start at the back of the car here. If you guys are savvy and keen, you'd notice my workbench is gone, the really dirty one. I actually cleaned it and I rolled it over there for now, but I got dirty again real quick. Alright guys, I'm going to give you a little update on the E92. We're going to start from the back and kind of move toward the front. So I've made a lot of progress, but there's still a lot to do. And I'm kind of working from kind of the middle of the car outward. So this is the fuel cell carrier right here. You can see I just riv nutted a bunch of riv nuts around. You actually just drop the fuel cell right in there. A couple weeks ago in the unboxing video, I showed you guys I got a 10-gallon radium fuel cell. That sits right in this carrier here. And actually it doubles as a rear strut tower bar, so it's welded to both the strut towers, and might provide some rigidity for the rear strut towers. And I had to cut the center section out on the floor here and put a smooth section because there were some bumps and stuff, and the fuel cell is actually supposed to be supported from the bottom. So I just cut that out, made it flat, sealed it up with seam sealer, and the fuel cell fits in there perfectly. My plan is to actually have the fuel fill up right here. Kind of seems a little ridiculous to move it from here to here, but the over fenders that I want do not have a fuel door on them, and to understand where exactly I can put this hole, I kind of need the rear quarter panel, so I'm kind of waiting on the company to get back to me for the rear quarter panels. But this is my intention right here, is to put the fuel filler in the flattest point on the C-pillar, somewhere around here. Originally, I was going to put it in the window. I was going to put it kind of right here in the window. But then I decided that I wanted to have a full rear windscreen. So on my E36, I have kind of one of those half windscreens and some ducting for the rear radiator. But I didn't want to do a half windscreen on this car. I wanted to do a full rear windscreen. And that meant that I need to get some air into the radiator somehow, and without having some giant duct in it. Because I want to be able to see out of it, and I just want it to be a cleaner look. So when I took the quarter panels out, I decided that I was going to make the rear firewall here have a vent in it. So this portion of the window is actually going to be the intakes for the rear mount radiator. And I also made the whole firewall. So, well, almost the whole firewall. So if we look here, I actually bought a bead roller. It's my first time bead rolling anything, so it came out okay. You can see where I had to set and reset the bead roller a couple times because I didn't plan very well. But I'm pretty happy with it, and I think the next things I'm going to bead roll will come out better. And I'm almost done with it. So the bottoms are just kind of spot welded in place, those tabs, and the tops actually aren't welded there at all. So that's what I got to do today. I got to weld these tabs in and get this all ready to go. And then bead roll the center section of this. So I'll show you guys how to use my new bead roller and stuff like that. And hopefully it comes out better than this, which I really don't think came out that bad for my first time. You may have noticed there's a big hole in my firewall. That's because I'm not finished with that part yet either. I do have a piece for it right here, but it needs to be fit a little more. And that'll go between those two sections. I think the last time you saw it, I was just kind of piecing the cage together. The whole cage is all pieced together and tacked together. I just have to weld around all the different nodes up front here. You can see I put the tire intrusion bars or the foot protection bars right in there. I put the vertical pieces in the door bars. I'm pretty proud of the cage. I mean, I think it came out pretty good. Welding it sucks, so I'm really taking my time doing that. And you can see I've done absolutely nothing to the front of the car besides store stuff in the engine bay. I did cut my dash in half, so I could make some dash mounts off the dash bar and hold the dash in. I just haven't done that yet either. So today I'd just like to finish up the rear firewall, bead roll that center section, weld those tabs in, and that's pretty much what I'm going to do today. I have been putting a ton of time into this off camera, and it's really starting to wear on me, honestly. It's this fabrication stuff on a full chassis. It's a lot of work, especially for one guy. So, all right, let's get started. Hey guys, so I just finished welding the tabs on for the back and kind of welding the frame of the Firewall in completely. So I just wanted to talk about, why I decided to do a two-piece Firewall when it would have been much easier to just slap a piece of metal in the back and do a half window. Some of the things I did, how I did it, and what the next steps are. So let's check it out back here. So you can see I used some 3/8 rod and some 1/8 inch plate, and then I made these tabs. Well, actually, me and Night Owl Performance made these tabs out of, I think it's 3/16. And the reason I did all this, this seems like a lot of effort for just a rear firewall, and it really is. Honestly, after I started doing this, I realized I could have just put a rear facing camera in the car, and I wouldn't have had to do any of this. I could have put a regular firewall in, but it was already done, so why not keep it now? But one of the benefits is you can take this part out. So if you have to do any work back here, it's easy to take out this plate that sits in this frame. Also, you can see through it out the back. So if I street drive the car around, I can actually just look in a rear view camera and just see through the back of it. So those are the two main reasons I wanted to do a two-piece firewall. The downsides is that this is 1/8 inch plate. I mean, this is pretty heavy, and I spent a lot of time getting all these brackets and stuff out to save weight in this car. The weight is really in the right place, forward to back, but it shouldn't be up high like this. I'm gonna leave it. If I see any major downside to it in the future, I'll cut it all out and I guess make something else. But I'm gonna try this, and like I said, it actually doubles as side inlets for the radiator. So I couldn't put these plates any further forward. And if you look at some other pro cars, they actually did a firewall basically right behind the main hoop. And I couldn't do that because my harness bar actually sits back. So the reason I did this is that actually I had to modify my cage in my E36 to do this to it when I moved my seat further back and down. So I didn't want to go through that again, and I just made it this way the first time. But that means I couldn't put a firewall here. And the firewall in the back is actually limited by the roof line because I have a carbon fiber roof. So I can't weld anything to it, so I had to weld here. So this point right here is basically as far forward as I can mount the firewall. So I couldn't make those vents any bigger. And it created a whole lot of work, but I think the end result is going to look really cool. And when you look through the rear window of the car, you'll be able to see the fuel cell and the radiator and everything, and it'll be protected from the rain, water, and stuff like that. So I just wanted to talk about why I did it, why I put so much effort into making something like this instead of just slapping some metal up there like I did last time. Alright guys, so I'm going to bead roll some patterns into this piece of metal. So bead rolling is kind of like, from what I can tell, like an old hot rod thing to do. You can make like these intricate designs in metal, but it has the added benefit of strengthening thin metal. So when you bead roll a piece of thin metal, it becomes much stronger. So we're going to actually bead roll this pattern right here into the metal. And between this line and this line, I'm going to recess the metal downward. I'm going to make a step here. And then these two lines are actually going to come forward with they're going to kind of be like two little speed bumps, two little humps. I think it'll look pretty cool. The piece is super long. It goes all the way across the car. And that means it's going to be really easy to warp. And we have to be very careful about keeping the metal basically flat. So I'm going to put some cinder blocks on here. I'm going to set you guys up on a tripod, and I'm going to try to bead roll this out. So this is the Woodward Fab bead roller. I bought it off eBay for about $150. I just did a little test piece, and my dies were set the wrong way, so I just reset them. And this is actually what it makes. So it just bends the metal just like that in a little step pattern with these dies on it. We're going to use a combination of these dies and a die that looks like this on this piece of metal here to create two different patterns. Pretty difficult to use though because it's actually manual turn. So there's just a lever on the other end that I have to turn while I'm trying to watch the piece. So it's also really difficult to not warp a piece. So I got these concrete blocks here to try to keep the piece flat as it goes through here and not warp it. Luckily this is getting welded to the car, so it's not that big of a deal if it does warp, but if we can avoid it, I'd rather avoid it. For a really long stretch like this, I should really make a fence for the piece of metal to ride against so it's straight, but you know, it's in the back of the car. Actually, it faces downward. I'm not too worried about it. You know, I just realized really I want to feed it this way so I can, or I want to feed it this way so that I can see the line as I'm feeding it in and keep it straighter. So I gotta find a way to hold it going the other way. Okay, so looks like I got her lined up. I made another kind of concrete block sawhorse behind it here so it kind of stays flat all the way through. I'm just going to crank the die down on it, which will push the metal into that shape, and then I'm going to roll it through. So we got the first kind of step roll done. So the center part of this is further down than the outside. You can kind of see a step there. And not bad. You can, no, not so bad over there either. Look down here. Basically the start-stop points are really difficult there. So that's where I started and stopped. And you can see I went a little crooked across that line there, but it's really tough to notice when the lines are erased. And if we look, the piece is still pretty flat. It's got a little bit of a twist to it. So it did warp a little bit, but actually much better than the last time I did that. This piece is getting welded down, so I'll just, you know, weld it in the correct position. But we're gonna go ahead and do these two lines through the center here. And I'm pretty proud of this little Woodward Fab bead roll. It's kind of hard to use because it's manual, you know, manual crank, but I'm cheap and I didn't want to buy the electric motor for it. You know, if I were to do bead rolling more often and get good at this, then I would make a table for it and a fence and probably put an electric motor over here.
Last person does it.
Yeah, there were 4. So you had 2 and I had 2.
I had 1.
No, you must have had 2.
I had 1.
There were 4 total, hon.
I had 1.
Then there's another one in the fridge somewhere. Wow, that was lucky. It landed right side up.
You ate all 3.
No, I only... Oh, maybe I did.
I know you did.
Alright guys, so check it out. So we did the step dimple, and then we kind of did the speed bump dimple. I don't really know what they're called, but we did the speed bump dimple in the middle for 2 lines. You can see it really changed it, and it really changed how stiff this thing was. I mean, it was like tin foil before, and now, I mean, obviously it's still thin metal, but it's much stiffer. I guess you guys, it's probably pretty tough for you guys to feel that. Anywho, I erased all the lines I drew so you guys couldn't really tell how crooked these lines were compared to the straight lines. But I'm really pretty happy with this for a DIY home garage type job. You know, it came out pretty good and it looks pretty good. If we look at it down this way though, you might be able to see it on camera. You can see they're not straight. It must be pretty hard to see that panel, but it's up there and it looks pretty cool. Let's see if we can, let's see, bead rolled all the way. Looks pretty nice in there. I just spot welded it in. Makes the back end look pretty cool. And then when we look at it from the other side, it looks really cool from the other side. So you can see I just spot welded it in. And of course it's the back side, so it doesn't look as good as the front. Maybe I should have reversed this, but I think it looks pretty cool. Now I just gotta do the big one that we can't warp. Look at this, guys. I drew so many different lines on this thing. I gotta go back and erase the ones that I'm not gonna use because some of the patterns I wanted to do just won't work. That's better. Now I won't be tempted to follow the wrong line. Guys, I am super stoked at how this came out. I may not be the best bead roller, but I am glad I did this in my garage at my house because it came out really, really nice. It's like a 50-50. It's like well, maybe 50 miles an hour, 50 feet. Looks damn good. So let me show you how it came out. I bolted everything together, and I just have to seal it up and then prime it all. So I'll probably seal it up like tomorrow and then prime it all and put the fuel cell back in so I know where to route everything for the fuel cell. But check it out. So I put that nice bead rolled X in there, bolted it all down to all those tabs. We got bead rolled underneath on that under panel, and we got bead rolled squares on the bottom. So squares, lines, then triangles. And it looks super cool from in here. Looks super cool from the back too, except now it's darker because the light is actually, up there. Really stoked at how this came out. I never would have thought that I'd be bead rolling things for my drift car, but here I am. Alright guys, so let's see what we got coming up. I hope the drift season starts soon so we can actually do some driving footage in the E36. It's basically just ready to go. I mean, ready to send it. I got a bunch of tires waiting to burn them, and hopefully we can do some drift day videos or some action videos or some fun videos that aren't just me working in the garage all the time. But for now, while we're under quarantine, that's what we got to do. And I'm getting a ton of stuff done on the new drift car, which will have more action shots later. So at least I'm being productive and you guys are getting to see all the progress and follow along with me. If you want to see more content like this, please hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends to hit the subscribe button. Those who have already subscribed, I thank you. I'm really surprised at how well this little bead roller machine did. And if you have any suggestions on how to not let the metal warp or how to get straighter rolls on it, please leave them comments down below. Thanks guys.